What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 14 of PowerTech. This is with your solution engineers. We're the folks that know PowerSchool the best. And today we're going to be talking about real life experiences with Unified Insights powered by Who Knew It, making the most of your data. I'm super excited to have multiple guests on the show today. Tracy McCown, who you have met, and she joined us just a couple of episodes ago. We have Shayne Kendall and Sarah Singer. What I'm excited about, and I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves, is these are all not only great teammates of mine, but they are also former practitioners of Unified Insights within their district. So what we're going to talk about today is, what was it like for them using the application? What challenges did they see? If they went through implementation, what was that like? And then we're going to talk about, well, now they sit on the other side of the table. What things have they learned? What things they wish they knew? And again, full transparency with you all, just to kind of give you the big picture of Unified Insights. We've talked about all the different things that you're offered, but we've also mentioned it, there are services lists, right? This is a lot of work. It can be overwhelming to look at all the data and decide, well, what direction do we want to go first? That's why we have our practitioners here, because they're going to talk to you about their experiences. So without further ado, Tracy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello, everyone. I'm Tracy McCown. I'm the Solution Strategy Director for Unified Insights powered by Who Knew It. And in my role, fortunately, I get to marry together a few different things that I'm passionate about. And one is the technology itself. I absolutely love using technology to make the world a better place. But the other thing is my experience coming from a district and implementing data deep out into our buildings and being able to put together the technology, the people, and the process. And of course, at the end of that are the students that we all serve.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Shayne, how about you?
Yeah, Justin, Shayne Kendall. I'm a solution engineer for Unified Insights powered by Who Knew It. I worked for Albuquerque Public Schools for about 15 years. That school district is 85,000 students, 140 buildings. We always had the saying that we were data rich and information poor, and we helped solve that by bringing in the Unified Insights platform and really turning it into powerful decision-making analytics. So after that, I came over to PowerSchool with the platform, and I've been with Unified Insights PowerSchool for 4 years. So I'm excited to be here today and talk about my experiences.
Thank you, sir. And Sarah, last but not least.
Great. My name is Sarah Singer. I worked at Portland Public Schools in Portland, Oregon, about 50,000 students. And I was there from 2006 to 2016. And then and while I was at Portland, I spent the last 3 years overseeing a division that was called System Planning and Performance. And it had research, it had accountability, it had assessment and administration, had strategic planning. It also had what was then called the VersaFit platform in it, or now is our PowerSchool analytics platform. So I can talk a little bit about that. After I left PPS, I kind of I took a pivot into the education technology career path and went to a small ed tech company called Tembo, which was then acquired by Who Knew It, which was then acquired by PowerSchool. And so I've been now at PowerSchool since December, where I am I'm very proud of PowerSchool employee.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So again, as you've seen, amazing talent with us today, all have extremely unique experiences. That's where we're going to start. We're going to take them back in time, throw them in the time machine, and let them talk about their experiences. Now, some of them have implemented Unified Insights. Others just used it and helped solve problems in the district. So that's what we're going to do. Go around the horn, give them a chance to tell some stories, because some of these might resonate with you. And if they do, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always here to support you all on your journey of making data receivable for everyone within the organization. So Tracy, why don't you go ahead first? Tell us a little bit about your experiences at Clover Park School District and some of the things that y'all did with the data with Unified Insights.
Yeah, we landed on Unified Insights for a similar reason that probably most people do. Just like Shayne said, we were data rich, information poor. We were just generating massive volumes of data, but it just wasn't accessible. It was an input and not an output. We just needed to be able to ask questions like, how are we doing? Where are we struggling? What can we do about those areas that we're struggling? Now, how are we doing next week once we did some things? Being able to progress monitor and just really use data as a tool for improvement and not making guesses, because sometimes our guesses might have been pretty spot on, but sometimes our guesses probably weren't accurate at all. And then we're putting so much energy into probably going in the wrong direction. And so we implemented this tool as a fact checker for us and just to constantly guide us as we are making these good decisions on behalf of our students.
That's awesome. When you talk about the implementation part, Tracy, what was that like? Stressful to bring all the information together, ups and downs. What's your memories?
Yeah, it was wonderful and stressful all at the same time. I mean, fortunately, the company had done this a bunch of times before, which really helped guide us. The project manager was really experienced, and so we weren't alone. And the data integration was pre-written, and so that part was really helpful. Now, when the work really begins is once you get the technology in place. Now, what are you going to do with it? How do you make sure it's embedded out into your schools and that it becomes a tool that makes everyone's jobs easier, not harder, right? You don't want to be just another screensaver or another tech tool. And so I'd say that's where, the work really began. That's where the experience really began, is getting out into the buildings and doing those trainings, listening, coming back and using the technology to make adjustments, working with the PowerSchool teams, to help us really embed this tool out into our buildings.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Shayne, talking about Albuquerque Public Schools, 110 buildings, 80,000 kids. It's intimidating. My palms are a little sweaty just thinking about how would I take this information and bring it to that many different people, that many different skill sets, that many different understandings of how to make data useful. What was your experience like?
Yeah, well, it was stressful, to say the least. And part of that stress was we were in a unique situation where the analytics platform we had previous decided to end of life their product and give us about 3 months notice. And so, at that point, we had a data culture that was pretty mature and used to using these analytics on a daily basis. And so we really had 3 months to kind of spearhead a committee, look at the different platforms out there, get the integrations done. So believe it or not, we started our implementation in November with the expectation and the need to actually have it running by January. So 3 months really. And as you know, November and December are pretty light months in the education world as far as resources go. We were able to pull that off. And I attribute it to what Tracy talked about earlier, which was the company itself, even through acquisition, has had 20 years experience, meaning that a lot of those integrations with SISs and assessments and all those things are already in place. Connectors are built. So we were able to do that. And we were able to do that because of the experience that the Unified Insights platform and team had. So that was very, very successful. And what we did with that was really prioritize what are folks going to need in that January timeframe, right? Semesters closing, grades are coming in, that's going to be a focus. Certain short cycle assessments were in their second window, that's a focus. So instead of kind of throwing the kitchen sink at them, we really looked at, deploying what was absolutely necessary at that time, and then releasing what we call data packs on a monthly basis to kind of keep extending the platform. So folks came in, they saw the data they needed to see, and then we would continue to expand upon that. And it was like, oh, when's the next data pack? When's the next data pack? We're so excited. So that's a real success story from an Albuquerque public school perspective, and being a large district, just kind of showing you how nimble the platform is.
Well, that's awesome, Shayne. Thank you. And there were two things that I think I want to call out real quickly before we get to Sarah. And I think when we talk about the implementation process, I've been talking about data and finding ways to do what Unified Insights does with schools for the last 6 years since I joined PowerSchool. And consistently, I always heard, yeah, I agree with you, but man, that's a lot of work. Man, it's a heavy lift. It's going to take time. I think the really powerful component of Unified Insights in our services implementation side is the things that Tracy and Shayne talked about. Those are real. Having those individuals there to support you. We have what we call connectors, right, which connect our applications directly up to Hoonuit. What that is essentially, it's just a baseline of all the key fields that we feel need to get to Unified Insights quickly. And then that stuff is set. Then can you build on that? Absolutely. You can extend that into any other sets of information that you want, but we're going to provide you that foundation. so that you can build on unified insights moving forward. The second thing that I loved about that was the kind of the PowerPack deployment. What a beautiful way to look at a huge implementation process and not overwhelming the end user, right? We all love data, the four of us. I was a former math teacher, so I love math, talking about data. What about that English teacher or that principal that came up through language arts or, whatever other form of teaching that maybe they were even teaching business or home ec, different things like that. Those people all have career aspirations. By doing it in chunks, it just allows us to deliver things in small pieces. And what was really cool about what Shayne said, then people are like leaning in. Wait, what's next? And that generates excitement. So two really great stories. Thank you both. Sarah, you were over at, you mentioned earlier, Portland Public Schools. I know you spent almost a decade there, which is awesome. Tell us about your experience.
Yeah. So when I came into the role that I was in, which was kind of overseeing the research evaluation assessment team, the first thing to know is I inherited this great platform, right? And it was at that point the VersaFit platform, which later became Hoonuit, which later became PowerSchool. And so here was my assessment of the situation of which I inherited. First of all, I would say, I think I had, I kind of got in that role because I had I had sort of this strong desire to build a data-driven culture at Portland. And my assessment of where we were as a district is that I think we didn't have a data-driven culture, a very strong one yet. And I would say it was a mid-tier priority at best. Now, I mean, no one would have actually said that out loud, but if we're being honest, when you actually kind of got the big list on this Excel spreadsheet, it was mid-tier. And so you kind of had that going on. And the second thing I would say is this platform, which was amazing, but it was an underutilized tool. It was just underutilized. I mean, it had all these powers, et cetera. And yet I don't think it was being adopted, used, leveraged in the way that it could. So that was sort of my read of the situation. And it was funny because there was still a kind of a cadre of leaders who still sort of expected their paper packets every year that had their assessment results. And literally our research and evaluation department every year, like I remember, like they would get the printers ready and they would print out the assessment results to be delivered before the start of school. And I'm like, well, can't they just use the platform for that? It's like, isn't that what it's for? Like, why are we doing this? And so I remember having that's conversation, and so there was actually literally some routines and behaviors that needed to be changed, that we were almost getting in our own way of our own building that data culture. So we had kind of some of that stuff to work through. And that's just sort of the softer side of change management that I think that we had to work through. So that was like one challenge. And then the other, recognizing that despite the fact that I think I was brought on that role to build the data culture, but knowing that it was a mid-tier priority, like in the grand scheme of things, just sort of being aware of the reality of the situation, I realized pretty quickly that I think we needed to sort of embed or attach ourselves to key initiatives that use data, right? Because that was the only way that we were actually going to get traction on any level. Because by ourselves, we weren't going to get traction. So if that makes sense. So that was sort of the strategy used. So we had, for example, a lot of work around high school graduation. So when I think in 2007, we were at 53% our graduation rate, and we had a huge push to keep getting our graduation rate up. I think we ended up getting, by the time I left, it was like 80%. So we had really made a lot of progress there. And so we had a lot of initiatives around ninth grade success. And so you can imagine the platform is amazing for an initiative like ninth grade success. You can track attendance rates. There was like literally an initiative around knowing every student by name. And you can do that in the Hoonuit platform very well. You can track, all the key metrics by every ninth grader. So we sort of attached the Hoonuit platform to those initiatives. So you're sort of embedding in that way. So that was just kind of a quick walk through the park, I guess. And then the last key thing that we did that I have some pride in is in the past, only administrators and central office people had access to the dashboard, and we opened it up to teachers. So push that to teachers. Why not give teachers access to?
No, absolutely. When you look at all the different components of stories, there's something for everybody in Unified Insights. It's just a matter of figuring it out, how to get them the information, how to get them jazzed about it. Right? We got to get them to use it, or we're just, I don't want to say wasting time. We're just not utilizing our resources properly. So what I want to do next is, it's fun because I did this myself. You cross the line from working in the school district into the corporate world or working for the vendor, and my eyes were opened to new things. Again, different experiences. I was just a teacher coming to show how student information systems work, right? So I'm very curious, what do you all see from that aspect when you were working in analytics at the district? Then you come to the vendor and all of a sudden you get to see what all the schools across the country are doing with data. So Tracy, I'll let you start.
Sure. Yeah. I have a couple of key lessons that I really learned. And the first one I kind of knew that I confirmed. And the second one was really eye-opening. So the first one is, of course, you have to pick the right tool. You have to pick a tool that is flexible and, like Sarah said, aligned with your initiatives and does the things that you need it to do, because you don't want to bring your people to the tech. You want to bring your tech to the people. But the second thing I learned is that we were not on an island like we thought we were. For some reason, when we would go buy technology, we would say we're unique, we're different. We need a tool that's like different like us, right? And once I came to the company and I, my first, second, third week started talking to districts in different parts of the country, and they bring up the exact same problems I had faced. And I was like, whoa, hey, I have some advice. I just went through that a year ago. And it was so eye-opening that, each district is a bit unique, and that's why we need flexibility, but we're really trying to do the same thing, which is serve kids. And we're having a lot of the same challenges. And if we could just come together as a community, we don't have to lift this heavy lift alone. And so what I learned is I really recommend to districts I work with now, get involved with the community, learn from each other. It is so much easier to solve problems together. You might find a district just solved that problem 3 months ago, and they give you that insight and off you go. You've just really utilize that resource effectively and saved yourself some time.
Yeah. Can I jump in on this one?
Please.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When I was at Portland Public, who I talked to a lot? Other Portland Public people. That's who I talked to a lot.
And Sarah and I lived 90 minutes apart and never met, and we were solving the same problems.
Yeah, we were solving the exact same problems. And so, in retrospect, I think about this committee that we kicked off, and it was how we wanted to redo some of our dashboards. And so this is a strength of the product, is that you can customize the heck out of the thing, which is great. And so we had this internal committee where we spent, I'm not joking, I think hundreds of collective hours when you count everyone who was involved, to solve some problems. I think it was around actually disproportionate discipline. And I think about that and I'm like, in the end, it may have been good to actually talk to some other districts and see what they're doing, number one. So that, to your point, Tracy. And then the other thing I might say, and I didn't know this at the time, and this is probably my own inexperience, but at the time, but I think the other thing to note is PowerSchool now, they have upgrades in their products, and they have like I could have checked in with PowerSchool and said, hey, by the way, because we were on an older version, what's the newer version? Like, what's your upgraded version look like these days in terms of your standard content? I might have just taken a look at it and see, like, does your version actually like solve some of our existing needs? So I don't have to like go in and recreate the wheel, rather than just kind of create our own content. And so two things I would just say, honestly, just check in with PowerSchool, to see what's going on in terms of what they have with what we call standard content. And then also, to Tracy's point, a lot of districts are solving the exact same problem. Tell me if there's districts out there that don't have disproportionate discipline or don't have, opportunity gaps or achievement gaps. And I'd be interested to know. And many districts are, and I liken to see, like, maybe perhaps you could collaborate and we could talk about how to solve challenges together. So.
Yeah, and I would just jump in and say, we haven't talked about the platform and its feature functionality too much, but part of the reason we chose at Albuquerque Public Schools was what Sarah and Tracy are alluding to. you're not on an island per se, but you definitely have specifics within your district that you need to be looking at in a certain way. The platform itself allows you to build out those metrics, those dashboards. We talked a little bit about not being overwhelming. So the ability to build landing pages for different role groups. So when a teacher logs in, they see very specific teacher-centric dashboards. When a principal logs in, they see that, board members and so on. So it can really serve all of K-12 and all the different role groups with very personalized dashboards in the way we need to look at them. The migration tool within the Unified Insights platform allows us to sort of what I call beg, borrow, and steal. So as Tracy and Sarah spoke about, when you start talking about the other partner districts and what they're doing, if they've got a dashboard or a metric that you want to borrow, there's that migration tool to really copy and paste it into your environment, because that data model is very standard across the board, right? So that just spurred those type of things for me. I know PowerSchool does a great job putting their partner districts together in those communities so that you can talk about how you're solving those common issues. And then the platform itself makes it very easy to borrow what others have done as well. And of course, the standard content itself, hundreds of metrics are constantly evolving based on feedback we get from our partnering districts. So to Sarah's point, right, what are those? Do we not need to customize? Is it going to be out in the next, standard content release? So yeah, I just wanted to touch on those points as well, Justin.
No, absolutely. And it's funny, I normally take a second and I try to summarize everything, and I don't have enough time to go through and summarize all the great points. But community was one thing that all three talked about, taking advantage of not just the folks that you work with, but looking outside the borders, looking to PowerSchool to see what's coming out and what's new, understanding that, yes, we are all unique in our own ways, but we are also very similar. We are solving similar problems where the goals are to make sure that we are supporting our students the best we can, whether it's providing them a test, a learning management platform, the funding, and the proper staff to support student growth. There are a lot of things that work hand in hand. And the beauty of data to me is that it's the one unifying force across everything. And when you talk about the PowerSchool ecosystem and unified platform, the thing that you all know I'm so passionate about is that's the outer circumference of our ecosystem. It brings everything together. And to leave you with a thought that has been echoed by our folks here today is, we provide you the foundation to get started and feel comfortable. Then once you're ready to run or crawl or whatever, walk, crawl, run, whatever, crawl, run, walk, run, I guess it would have been. You can crawl when you start, then you start walking. And then when you're ready to run, the system's there to support you. You can start to bring in those things that are important to you and really take it to the next level. So I want to thank Tracy, Shayne, and Sarah for taking time to join us. This is episode 14, Real Life Experiences with Unified Insights, making the most of your data. I want to thank you all for joining us. As always, please hit that like button, throw in the comments what you like, topics you want to hear from us, smash that subscribe button. You can only find out when the new episodes come out if you're subscribing to the channel. So we appreciate everyone's time. Until next time, have a great day.